You actually task switch. You don't multitask. There's no such thing as multitasking. It takes you 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes to adjust to what you're doing. So when the stream first starts, like, I'm not going to catch my groove until about 15 minutes after you hear me rambling a bit. And then everything's warmed up and I'm all focused and like totally involved in what I'm doing. And then if I were to stop doing that and I were to like get distracted and come do something else for 15 minutes, it would take me 15 minutes to get back into what I was doing initially. The problem is there's no such thing as multitasking. Multiple studies have confirmed true multitasking, or doing more than one task at the same time, is a myth. People who think they can split their attention between multiple tasks at once aren't actually getting much more done. This is the reason why I don't like driving on really crowded highways or during holiday seasons when everybody else is driving, because of this. Like, people think they're multitasking whenever they're glancing at their phone for directions while they're driving, or when they're picking a different video or song to listen to, or responding to a text or something. And we know we're not supposed to do it, but yeah, it's context switching is what they're calling it. Switching back and forth between tasks. Attention residue. Performing a number of tasks in rapid succession. That would be like talking here, and then I would say reading chat, but I don't have chat open because it's been so damn long since I did this. It's not like anybody's already here though. So sorry if you've been talking. Okay, so multitasking, what you're doing when two things at once, it says what doing two things at once does to your brain. Most of us think about multitasking as trying to do two or more things at once. It's the busy receptionist taking calls, dealing with customers, and grabbing files, or the project manager spending all day on Slack while he's writing documents and getting updates from the teams. In fact, most of us multitask in this way. We keep an email open and IM open, email and IM open, or instant messenger, I guess that means, while we write design or code to try to handle both at the same time. When we looked at the data from 50,000 plus rescue time users, we found that the average knowledge workers, 40% of their multitasking. Okay. Putting it lightly, many other studies have found excessive multitasking has severe consequences on our mental and physical well-being. Among other things, multitasking impacts your short-term memory. So you become more reliant on things like GPS navigation. It will lead to increased anxiety. Like if you have an anxiety disorder, then it's not so great. Inhibits creative thinking. And if you're doing like a creative endeavor, then it's not so great. Stops you from getting in the state of flow, which I would argue is the fountain of youth. But anyways, causes more mistakes and less productivity. More mistakes and less productivity? Context switching. What happens each time you bounce between tasks? Our brains can't do two things at once. They're simply not wired to do so. Instead, what we think of as multitasking is really just bouncing back and forth between tasks very quickly. But all this context switching takes its toll. We can shift our focus really fast. Sometimes it takes just a tenth of a second. And it says, however, the time doesn't matter as much as the bandwidth required to jump from one task to another and back again. I've heard of Asmongold describe it as bandwidth. When you have the chat open and you're trying to do something competitive in a game, you're also trying to keep in mind your rotation, your cooldowns, the enemy's rotation and cooldowns, and chat's responses or anything that might be going off over there. So it's really taxing. And it's like you consume the same amount of calories as an NFL athlete just by sitting here and thinking and playing video games and broadcasting. You consume the same amount of calories as someone out running on a field all day. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. All this it takes our toll, tenth of a second. It says research has found every additional task or tool you switch to eats up 20% of your productivity. Yet despite all the consequences, most of us spend all day switching between tasks. One small study found that workers switch tasks every 3 minutes. Rather than list off more research, let's try a simple exercise that quickly illustrates the switching cost. Take out a sheet of paper and draw 2 lines on it. Okay, so here's a line and there's a line. It says, now time yourself to write, I am a great multitasker on the first line, and then write the numbers 120 sequentially on the second line. Most people take about 20 seconds to do this. So I got to write on the first line, I'm a great multitasker. Maybe they should have put horizontal lines because I drew vertical lines. So let's do this. We'll rotate them 90. Bloom. And then we got to write, I'm a great multitasker 1 through 20. But we got to time it. Hold on. Let me get the timer out. Timer. Get a little stopwatch here. I'll pop this out. Stopwatch. Ready? Set. Go. Okay. And it says, I am a great multitasker. My handwriting. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, shit, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Oh, I'm not writing, so it's harder. No, cancel. All right. Get back to the stopwatch. Where is it at? It took me 47 seconds, guys. And that was because I was multitasking or task switching. All right. Most people take about 20 seconds. Holy shit. It's much slower with the mouse, guys. Take a new piece of paper and draw 2 more lines. Okay. This is becoming overwhelming. And this says, this time yourself switching between the 2 tasks. Right from the sentence, I am a great multitasker. It says write a letter from the sentence on one line and then write a number on the other line. Okay. So this is what they're saying to do. This is the multitasker thing. So the first line, right here and right here. I am whoa. I'm not timing myself, by the way. I gotta be timing myself. Reset, start. We got a little head start there. A great multi. This is an 11. Tie 13, 14. Task 15, 16, 17, okay, 18, 19, 20. Boom. Get them, got them good, guys. Let's see if that was faster. Ooh, slightly slower. Not much worse though. It's equivalent for me at least, because I'm using a mouse probably. This time, okay, we did that. Continue until you completed both tasks. You probably won't have finished both tasks before realizing it's taking you a hell lot more time to get through it whenever you're switching back and forth. Took a little bit more time. I think I was more used to doing the assignment by that point, so maybe it was a little faster because it was only like a 5-second delay. But I also didn't start until later, so it took more time. It could be even worse. It's probably most likely way worse, like they're saying. This might not mean you're much of a movie watching, scrolling through. Okay, it says it might not mean much if you're watching a movie and scrolling through Insta at the same time, but in the workplace, it only slows you down and adds anxiety and stress to your day. So that's a thing. I will be watching a movie sometimes and then I'll feel compelled to like open up TikTok. And then I realize I'm not doing either of these things. I'm not even watching the movie and I'm not even really paying attention to what's going on the TikToks. So I just like do one or the other and that's it. Attention residue, how much multitasking keeps impacting us even once we've switched to another task. Finally, there's a type of multitasking that a few people really talk about, and it's doing multiple different tasks in quick succession. Doing one thing at a time is infinitely more productive than multitasking, but just because you're going through your to-do list at lightning speed doesn't mean you're free from multitasking. Each time you switch activities, you're forcing your brain to execute functions, part of managing blah, 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 to go through 2 energy-intensive stages. First, there's goal shifting. This is where you decide to do one thing instead of another. And then the next is role activation. This is where you change from the rules or change from the rules or the context of the previous task to the new one. Not only is this mentally taxing, but it's also a completely clean process. In a 2010 Harvard study, psychologists Matthew Killingsworth and Daniel Gilbert found that people spent almost 47% of their waking hours thinking about something other than what they're actually doing. And 80% of that's the same shit you thought of yesterday, buddy. And that has its own associated costs. The authors write, the ability to think about what is not happening is a cognitive achievement that comes at an emotional cost. In her 2009 paper, Why Is It So Hard to Do My Work? Business school professor Sophie Leroy calls this attention residue, quote unquote. When we move from one task to the next one, it takes us time for our attention to catch up. We're not machines, and pieces of ideas and lingering thoughts remain even after we've crossed an item off of our to-do list. Multitasking in the workplace. Look at that blank form he's looking at. It looks like a website ready to load. He's on a slow internet connection. Of course, he's got his phone's off, though. What is this guy doing? I don't understand. Multitasking affects us all in all aspects of our life, but nowhere are the consequences clearer than in the workplace. Let's look at some ways we multitask at work without realizing it and how we can gain more from an intense single tasking. I think the elephant in the article is driving. Yeah, workplace. Okay, why you probably multitask at work way more than you think. If we think about the different ways we could multitask, doing two things at once, context switching and attention residue, it becomes pretty clear how these find their way into your workday. But maybe not. Maybe you think you're actually good at multitasking. As we'll explain next, you're not. Often, perhaps you don't think that you multitask very often, but multitasking has a way of creeping into our days in ways that we don't even realize. Let's look at one of the most common examples of the workplace multitasking we've already touched on, email. When we looked into the email habits of 50,000 plus knowledge workers, not only did we find that the average that they spend is 41.1% of their day, 41.1, I think the point was just so you know they're really accurate in these 50,000 control group these got. They also found most people can't go for more than 6 minutes without checking those tools. Even worse, 35.5% of the workers check their email and IM every 3 minutes or less. They must be getting more dopamine from that. The problem is that the behavior is seen as completely normal, even if it's not explicitly stated. We're expected to check emails and respond to messages right away. In fact, over 70% of people keep their inbox open all day long, yet only 20% only 20% have a plan with how and when they deal with the email. Again, this is multitasking. Even if you're being productive by answering emails during other tasks, you're not. As Stanford researcher Clifford Nass writes about, this is the actual article that he wrote on August 24, 2009. If you click on it. So we're excited about these heavy multitaskers, quote unquote. When they're in situations where there are multiple sources of information coming from an external world or emerging out of memory, they're not able to filter out what's not relevant to their current goal. Email isn't the only tool that pulls our attention. More devices, tools, meetings, and tasks we bring to our workday, the more likely we are to multitask. In one study, UC Irvine professor Gloria Mark found that in general, workers average only about 3 minutes on any given task before switching, about 2 minutes to using any digital tool before switching again. Oh shit. From our own research, the Knowledge Works average 56 different apps and websites per day. They switched between them more than 300 times. The power of a single tasking, modern. Okay, so this is, I guess, the solution is single tasking, guys. If you want to get tasks done at a high quality and in less time, it pays dividends to focus on one at a time. Single tasking, less stress. When you expend extra energy to multitask, you end up exhausted and behind on your work. However, when you focus on one thing at a time, you're more likely to get into a state of flow. Finish what you set out to do and in turn lower your workplace stress levels. Single tasking makes you focus on what you should do, not what you could do. Choosing something to place all of your attention on for a set period of time means saying no to a bunch of other tasks. This not only helps you prioritize your most important work, but it can also help you rebuild your focus. Do one thing at a time to make you, doing one thing at a time can make you more creative. It seems like single tasking is limiting, but in fact, constraints can boost creativity. As research has found, when we face scarcity in resources, we give ourselves freedom to use other resources in less conventional ways because we have to. I used to tell my kids, creativity craves constraint. How to stop multitasking and get more done. It's not easy to stop multitasking even if you know the benefits of doing just one thing at a time. The modern workplace is designed to help promote multitasking, but we've been sold a lie that we're more efficient when we try to do multiple things at once. But as we've seen, this just isn't the case. Here are a few ways to protect yourself and focus and stop multitasking at work. 5 ways to reduce the amount of multitasking you do every day. We're going to skim this because I'm over this. Create a daily schedule, a dedicated time, limit your email and work in bursts, or I call it batching. You can work in like batches. Block and distracting websites when you want to focus. Yeah, that's pretty good. Alternate between periods of focus and break. Optimize your work environment for focus. And are some people better at multitasking than others? I don't know. I don't think there's anything else left substantial to this article.